Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. As you know, we cover My Hero Academia on Thursday, and we're always excited to talk about the newest chapter, especially when Horikoshi is dropping bangers like last week. So without further ado, let's see what chapter 344 had to say. So the chapter starts with a flashback of All Might in the student's dormitory, saying that searching for All for One is useless. To catch a coward like him, you have to lure him out, and their plan connects to Aizawa in that aspect. Tsukuyuchi says that assuming that the villains still have search, All for One would be able to confirm Deku's position from a distance. That's why Eraser's suggestion was to use Ayoma to take him to an isolated place. Everyone is happy to hear that he'll be part of this plan, but Momo remembers what his parents said about him knowing when they're lying. Tsukuyuchi replies saying that they already found an answer to this. However, the couple's conversation with All for One was always through some transmission device, never face to face. He must have a way to identify lies by the tone of their voice. So Aizawa also thought of a way to make a voice reach All for One's ears without a hint of falsity in it. That's when Shinso enters the room and the students go wild, saying that his uniform is really cool. Sue says that she's confused about this since Aizawa explained the plan, because back at the joint training he couldn't use his quirk to make others talk on their own. Shinso then explains that in order to be worthy of entering the hero course, he has strengthened his quirk and will be able to control Ayoma's parents. This was actually a big question I had at the end of last chapter. I was wondering how All for One didn't pick up on the fact that they were lying, in what way they went around this, but clearly now it's explained. Shinso has grown a ton since we've seen him use his quirk last. Previously, when Shinso used his quirk, those who were affected by his quirk were kind of zombified or kind of idle within their own body, and that he wasn't able to control their actions or their speech. But now, clearly, just like the rest of the heroes, Shinso has grown a ton, and it now answers that question. And it seems this chapter is starting off explaining how the heroes went about their plan, and it isn't jumping straight into the action. I kind of figured it would go this way at the end of last chapter, because I doubt Horikoshi would jump us straight back into the actual fighting, but obviously we needed the plan explained. The students are very happy and wondering about his hero name and which class he will enter, asking it to be Class A. Nezu interrupts and says that although Shinso doesn't have a provisional license, Mera from the Public Safety Commission has given him permission to use his quirk in this situation. Tokuyame wonders how they will be able to mobilize the heroes if All for One has search, because it would be too easy for him to spot the trap. All Might says that they don't have to be in the same place, and it cuts to the central hospital where we see Aizawa, Vlad, Monoma, and Kurogiri. Aizawa says that it was All Might's request, and Vlad asks if Monoma is ready to play such an important role. Monoma teases Aizawa by saying that it seems like a joke to ask him to master such a quirk in just a few days. Eraser apologizes and says that Kurogiri no longer responds to his voice and must not know who he really is. Now that Aizawa has lost one of his eyes, he can barely use Erasure properly, so he probably won't be able to do much in the next war. Monoma comforts him, saying that according to everyone who was in Jaku, all the heroes would have been wiped out if Eraserhead hadn't been there. Monoma then goes on to say that he is used to hearing that he'll never become a real hero with his quirk, that it's a supporting character's power. Vlad then puts his arms on his shoulder and says that in this strategy there are no supporting characters. Monoma will shine as one of the protagonists. Monoma, despite his grandiose persona that he constantly gives off throughout the story, at least whenever he's facing Class 1A, clearly he kind of struggles with the fact that he's a supporting character and not a main character. Despite sometimes how he acts, he may think that he has main character syndrome. So I'm really glad to see that right now he is playing an integral role within this story, and given the conversation with Eraserhead, it's possible that maybe Monoma will use Eraserhead's power eventually, and as a result, Eraserhead can still kind of fight throughout the war, or at least his ability can, and it can still be useful. Clearly these two side characters within Monoma and Shinso have grown a ton, and Horikoshi is showing that even these side characters are going to absolutely shine throughout this final arc. It then cuts back to the present with the heroes coming out of the portal while Monoma laughs and boasts about his achievement. We see All Might in the command room with several screens saying that they were already expecting All for One to bring an army, because if he steals One for All now, he won't have to run and hide anymore, so he's going all out. Dabi advances towards Endeavor, saying that he didn't expect to find him here, and he asks if he would like to watch his fellow heroes die first. He shoots out a huge amount of fire, but at the same time a giant iceberg is expelled from the portals. Shoto comes out of them right away and says that he will not let his idiot brother do as he pleases. Dabi notices his presence and starts laughing. All Might then shouts, "System Troy on," and we see a huge metal construct coming out of the ground, trapping the villains inside of them. All for One wonders why the heroes did that, knowing that they can destroy these things in seconds, but soon understands what the real intent is. Tsukuyuchi tells All Might that this time they'll be able to win with the plan he's created. The metal cages begin to move, and Monoma opens the portals once again, while All for One confirms that the plan is to separate the villains. And the chapter ends here. Something I think we need to all appreciate is that when All for One approached Deku, he didn't just approach him by himself, he pulled up with all the villains expecting to fight Deku, versus all of them simultaneously. That's just a testament to the monster that Deku's become. Also, are y'all not absolutely excited to see the Todoroki family finally come full circle and they'll finally be able to battle it out? I know we've been awaiting this plotline forever. It's been going on for ages, and finally it's here. Horikoshi's going pretty fast within this final arc, so perhaps he's aiming to end this pretty soon, maybe even before December, which would be absolutely tragic, but at the end of the day, we are in the final battle within the final arc. So there's not really much else to do besides these final fights. Now we really see the purpose of the system of Troy, and within the system of Troy, it aims to separate all the heroes and villains. If you're unfamiliar, I think the final fights are going to go something like this. Uraraka versus Toga, the Todoroki family obviously battling each other, obviously Shigaraki versus Deku, but a fight I think that maybe some people aren't expecting. I really think Bakugo will end up facing off versus All For One, and he'll really redeem himself as a character, especially due to the fact that he holds himself responsible for All Might retiring, because All Might, as we know, had to rescue Bakugo from All For One. So these fights are finally here and they're about to transpire. Unfortunately, this chapter was more of a setup chapter and kind of informed us how this whole thing transpired, but nonetheless, it was a great chapter. If y'all enjoyed this coverage of My Hero Academia, we do it every single Thursday, and if you want to be part of that, please do drop a subscription as it really helps out the channel, and I'm glad to have you part of my community. As always, I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and remember, be greedier.